Good morning, Gethin. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing, Mike?
Excellent, thank you.
Nice
Lovely
to
to
see
see you again.
Likewise. So why are we here today?
Well, look, we're here because we're reflecting on the 40-year history of our organisation, Link Wentworth, and how that corresponds with the history of social housing in New South Wales. And the homes we have here before us today in South Windsor are excellent examples of the immediate post-war housing construction that the Housing Commission was involved in. And you can see these homes have stood the test of time, and that's 60 or 70 years of housing opportunity for the residents that have been able to live in these homes.
So what can you tell us about these properties, Mike?
Gethin, they're fine examples of the housing that was constructed in the immediate post-World War II period, both to provide housing for returning service people, but also to address the housing need that existed in Australia and particularly in New South Wales at that time.
And were they the most common properties that you would see when you joined the industry?
Yes, I started with the Housing Commission in the late 70s, and the predominant housing form at that time was cottages. So these cottages here in South Windsor are great examples of what forms of housing were constructed for families, so mum, dad and 2 or 3 kids or more. But over time there was an increasing need for more smaller housing, particularly for seniors and for single parents, and who may have only had 1 or 2 children. So we started to see an increase in the construction of flats and other forms of apartments. I'm actually going to wander down the street a bit further now and visit one of our residents, Diana, and to have a look at her home that was constructed in the 1980s.
I lived originally in a little cottage up the road here. Being a woman, as you do, I didn't have much in the way of super. I had about $25,000, I think, when I retired, which is peanuts today. Gradually, the rent just went up and up and up. And by 2013, it was taking most of my disability support pension and leaving me with a couple of $100 for everything else each fortnight. And I'd already put my name down with Wentworth, as it was then, in George Street, and I had a nice interview with a lady there. She said, well, we'll get you onto the priority list at some stage. And 2013, I really couldn't manage any longer on the disability support pension. Hours were going down with the writing for students, helping students. And I had to go along and say, is there any possibility you could find me somewhere to live that I can afford to pay the rent? And within 2 days, I was here. And the rent was incredibly affordable, and everybody was super helpful at Wentworth. And yeah, I think it's been absolutely wonderful. And it's given myself that sense of security. And as you get a lot older, you really do need that.
The rich history of community housing in New South Wales has developed over a significant number of years. Frank Walker was the Minister for Housing in New South Wales in the middle 1980s. Frank Walker's vision as Minister was not just to provide more housing, but to look more fundamentally at the housing system and how the whole system could be improved, and that how alternative means or methods of social housing delivery could be put into place. A clear example of that is the establishment of community tenancy schemes, which were the early precursors to the community housing sector as we know it today. I think some of the biggest changes that occurred in the social housing space from the late 80s through the 90s was a much stronger involvement of the private sector in housing provision. For many decades, both the Housing Commission and the Department of Housing constructed its own project. They were tendered out to builders and developers.
This is quite an old building. It was made in 1945, and at that stage it was just a shed and a fence. The day I moved in, I think it was about the 12th of May 1991, and it was, just the change of the season. It was like it was a change of everything. Having come from living in a one-bedroom unit with 3 children, all under 10, it was terrifying. I didn't know what my future held. My first memories of here were just coming over with a girlfriend, walking in the front door and seeing how big it was. The kids were really excited. They couldn't stop running up and down the hall and just, going in, looking into every room. And I know that just how fortunate I've been to have been here for so long, to know that it's my home, for my children to see this as their family home. We knew that we were safe, and we felt really, really looked after.
The Nation Building and Economic Stimulus Program in New South Wales provided the platform for a really significant leap forward in social housing. The state was funded to buy or build 6,000 new homes in a relatively short period of time, and by working together with the private sector, Housing New South Wales was able to not only construct those 6,000 homes, but more. There are a number of examples of nation building projects in the Link Wentworth property portfolio. College Street at Hornsby is an excellent example of some of the projects that were able to be funded and constructed through that nation building program.
So what can you tell us about this building, Mike?
Gethin, we're in Phillip Street at St Mary's. We're standing outside a project that's a great example of the growth and maturity of the community housing sector today. It is a mix of affordable and social, and that's a really important balance in trying to make sure that we meet the needs of the broader community.
I moved from Pakistan in 2013. I arrived here as a refugee as well, fleeing persecution in Pakistan, religious persecution mainly. My immediate family, my parents, my sister and my brother, they're all in Pakistan still.
Okay.
If I hadn't made this decision or that decision, where would have my life led me? And one of the main pivotal moments in my life had been when I got the affordable housing for with St Mary's here with Link Wentworth. The apartment got sold and the new owners wanted to move in to that apartment. It was quite expensive. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. I think we were paying $480 a week. So given that I was studying at the time as well, it was quite hard. The next day I got a call from Link Wentworth that, our application has been progressed and there's an apartment available in St Mary's that we can have a go at. We looked at the apartment and we liked it. Compared to their $520 that was, and this was about $280 at the time.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
That's a huge difference, almost as half, Yeah. So I work through the university. I just finished my master's in radio astronomy, working on radio telescopes out towards the edge of New South Wales. And besides that, I work 4 nights a week at the Sydney Observatory in the city.
Oh, okay.
So I give tours and I educate the general public about the wonders of astronomy and how beautiful our universe is. As far as education is concerned, as far as my place within the scientific community is concerned, it feels really bright because of the opportunities given by Link Wentworth. If I didn't have the opportunity there, I would have never pursued my master's.
But the community also benefits from the teaching that you do in schools here in Australia and overseas. What a wonderful thing.
We can only have a bright future if our future generations are bright.
I'm enormously proud of Link Wentworth for a variety of reasons, but none more so than the fact that we are the largest provider of together home services in New South Wales. Together Home is a really important homelessness program. It's about outreach, it's about identifying people who are homeless, especially those who are sleeping rough, to firstly link them with support and ideally then provide them with housing. It's a sad reality that in Australia today there are over 100,000 people sleeping rough on any given evening. We're here to talk with one of our residents who's going to share with us his housing journey. Hello Rob, how are you?
Good.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, I'd like to see you too. This is the spot I used to sleep. Up here, mattress, lovely view when you think about it.
And how long did you sleep rough up here?
About 15 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
But most of my life I was always in the bush, like farm work, so I was used to open spaces, so sleeping outside was not a thing that really bothered me. It was just that it is dangerous.
I'm sure. And I understand that the staff from Link Wentworth called in to see you on a regular basis and see what they could do to help.
Yeah, so I decided I'll do the Link Wentworth first, and then they got me a house.
Okay.
Got me a unit. 3 weeks later, I'm in a place. So I got to get used to actually keeping the keys on me when I leave the door.
And you had some support to get furniture and things like that.
Yeah, they
for
gave
the unit.
Link gave us some stuff, and they supplied me a bed, a fridge, and a washing machine.
That's great.
A bit of cutlery, a bit of pots and pans, some towels and stuff like that.
Well, it's quite a big difference for you from living here in the grandstand to having your own unit. But it must be reassuring for you, and particularly reassuring for your family, to know that now you've got your own unit and you've got that safety and that security and that affordability.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we're certainly delighted to have you as one of our Link Wentworth residents.
Oh, I'm glad to be one.
So when you reflect back on your career in community and social housing, Mike, what are your overriding emotions?
Emotions of excitement, particularly now with some of the opportunities before us, but also a great deal of satisfaction from the work that I and many others have been able to do over the years, but particularly emotions of gratitude for the way the industry's changed, the way the sector's changed. We are much more than just housing managers. We provide a much more holistic service. We provide outreach services to people like Rob who are homeless. I've had the opportunity of meeting many wonderful tenants like the lovely Diana from South Windsor, who's a fantastic artist, even in her senior years. Those things make for an enriching career, an enriching career for me, and hopefully a career where I've helped make a difference.